Right, and coming up on World Business Watch today, global markets have been jolted by the Iran conflict, swinging trillions in value. Oil spiked, then plunged, and stocks reversed sharply. While unusually well-timed trades are fueling insider trading questions ahead of key announcements. We will decode this and more on the show today. Stay tuned. All right, those are the top headlines that we are tracking for you at this hour. And now let's get talking about the global markets that are whipsawed, and the wild gyrations this week reflect how tentative sentiment remains despite Wednesday's cross-asset milestone-filled relief rally. Now, crude rose about 3% to above $97 a barrel on Thursday, rebounding from its worst plunge in more than 6 years on Wednesday. Crude prices had crashed on the hopes that the ceasefire deal would help ease the flow of oil through Strait of Hormuz. However, the fragility of the truce was reflected in the lack of clarity on the ceasefire agreement points. Reports showed that continued drone strikes in Gulf nations and Israel's insistence on striking Lebanon. Now, Israel has claimed Lebanon was not part of the deal, while Iran disagrees and wants an immediate end to hostilities. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said that 3 clauses of the ceasefire proposal have been broken so far. The most impactful news of the day on day 2 of the ceasefire is reports that show Iran has once again shut the Strait of Hormuz. However, other reports show that Iran has announced alternate shipping routes through Hormuz. The conflicting news flow keeps investors on the edge. Unless there's clarity on the deal, crude prices are now expected to rise back above the $100 per barrel level. The lack of clarity is also setting the tone for uncertainty on the meeting between Iran and US delegates on Friday, and on a sustainable peace deal going forward. Neil Roberts, head of Marine and Aviation at the Lloyd's Market Association, says that time will tell whether it is a pause or a peace. But in the meantime, it is highly unlikely that trade in the Gulf will simply resume. Roberts added that the region remains at heightened risk with none of the underlying tensions resolved. The reversal in global market moves also reflects an important question that's doing the rounds. Is this a ceasefire? MSCI Asia Pacific equity gauge fell over 1% after having surged 5.1% to a 5-week high in the previous session. On day 1 of the ceasefire, the Asian stocks gauge had marked the best gains in over a year. The S&P 500 futures pointed to a red open after gaining 2.5% in the previous session. European contracts too showed a fall after benchmarks had rallied on Wednesday. Molly Schwartz, a cross-asset macro strategist at Rabobank, said that the trouble with ceasefires is that they often require both sides to agree to a set of terms and then actually cease fire. The strategist added that, however, if the sets of terms are not comprehensive and comprehensively established, and neither side can be held accountable to pause hostilities, then the so-called ceasefire loses all meaning. Bitcoin also lost ground and fell to $71,000 after rallying past $72,500 in the previous session. The top token had fallen to a low of $68,000 ahead of the ceasefire announcement, but it recovered sharply, gaining over $4,500 in a single day. Cryptos have behaved erratically through the war month. They have risen one day on safe haven bets as an alternative asset, and on another, they have collapsed as a victim of being a risk asset.